In a galaxy far away, the Varelian Empire ruled many star systems. Their cities floated in the sky. Their ships glowed like stars. Their people were known for beauty, strength, and perfect health. But not everyone was perfect. Princess Sira was born different. She was blind. Her legs were weak. She needed help to walk. She could not see the stars her people loved. Because of this, many Varelians believed she was cursed. They whispered behind her back. Even her own father, the king, kept her hidden in the quietest corner of the palace. Sirah grew up in silence. No visitors. No friends. Only a few kind servants who helped her read and walk. She heard music from the royal halls, but never joined the dance. She listened to the news of space battles, but never sat at the war table. And when she turned 16, her heart felt cold and empty like a world with no sun. Then everything changed. One day, a sudden attack destroyed the outer defenses of the empire. The king died in a surprise bombing. Chaos followed. The Varelian leaders rushed to the palace. Their system had a rule. If the ruler dies without naming an heir, the next leader must be bonded to a soul protector, a warrior who connects with their heart and mind. Princess Sira, the only child, was the next in line, but to rule, she needed someone to step forward and bond with her. The bond was sacred, connected minds. It allowed the protector to sense danger and share strength with the royal. But no Varelian warrior came forward, not even one. Some said, "She is blind, she cannot rule." Others said, "She is weak, she will never survive the bond." Even her own uncle, Lord Yevon, turned away. He wanted the throne for himself. Sira waited in the palace bonding chamber, sitting alone on a silver chair. Her hands rested in her lap, her head bowed. Around her, the crowd of nobles stood in silence, watching, judging. Then the door slammed open. A human stepped inside. His name was Commander J. Sarden, a soldier from Earth. He had been stranded in Varelian space after a space battle. His ship was destroyed. He had been captured, but later released by peace agreement. Somehow, by a strange twist of fate, he had been brought into the palace just as the bonding ceremony was announced. Jace didn't understand their ways. He didn't know the rules. But when he saw the girl sitting alone, fragile, forgotten, surrounded by cold faces, something inside him moved. He stepped forward. The nobles gasped. Sarah raised her head. Though she couldn't see, she felt the air shift. A new presence, a warm presence. Jace looked at her and said, "Is this seat taken?" The room fell silent. Then came the laughter. A human, someone shouted. "He doesn't know the law," said another. But Sira spoke, soft and clear. "Do you mock me, stranger?" Jace shook his head. "No, I just hate seeing someone left alone." Her voice trembled. "You know what bonding means?" He paused, then said, "Not fully, but I know you need someone. I don't walk away from those who need help." Stor reached out her hand, slowly, unsure. Jace took it. A beam of light flashed. The ancient code activated. The bond had begun. The nobles cried out in shock, but it was too late. The law was clear. Princess had chosen. The bond had accepted. And deep in the heart of the palace, something else awakened. An old system hidden for centuries blinked to life, because the true heir had made her choice, and the galaxy would never be the same. Jase had no idea what he just agreed to. The moment his hand touched Sira's, a soft blue glow surrounded them both. It wasn't heat, it wasn't cold. It was something deeper, like their hearts were suddenly speaking without words. The nobles stepped back in shock. The high priest, keeper moral, rushed forward. "This cannot happen. The human doesn't know our ways. This bond is sacred." But the law was already in motion. The old stone seal in the chamber cracked open. Light flowed out like water. A voice, mechanical and ancient, echoed through the hall. "Heart has accepted heart. Mind has accepted mind. The bond begins." Sira trembled. She had never felt this before. The bond. She sensed something strange. Warmth, strength, but also confusion. Jace didn't understand the Varelian bond, but his soul wasn't. Lying, his intentions were real. She whispered, "You really mean this?" Jace looked around at the angry faces. "I don't know what's happening, but yes, I mean it." Suddenly the blue glow wrapped around his arms and spread into his chest. It pulled a memory from him, something deep, something painful. Sira saw it. A battlefield on Earth. Smoke, screaming, fire. Jace pulling a wounded child out of a collapsing building, his own leg broken, blood on his face. But he didn't stop. She gasped. "You saved her. Even though you were hurt?" He stared at her. "You saw that? It's the bond," she said, her voice soft. "We share pieces of each other." The high priest shook his head in disbelief. "This is wrong. A human mind cannot survive full bonding. It will destroy him." Jace clenched his fists. "Try me." The ritual had to be completed now. It couldn't be undone. Sira stood, slowly, with help from her servant. She guided Jace to the sacred pool in the center of the chamber. Silver mist floated over the water. This was where the final step happened. Soul merging. If one heart was false, the bond would break. Both would suffer. Jace stepped into the water with her. Sira spoke the words of her ancestors. "Let my weakness become our strength. Let my silence become our voice. Let our hearts walk as one." The mist turned into a swirl of colors. Jace felt pressure in his head, like something pressing against his mind. But he didn't push back. He allowed it in. He showed her his memories, his pain, his loneliness, his fear of being useless after the war, but also his courage, his stubborn will to protect those who couldn't fight. And from her he saw ... darkness. Years of it, sitting in silence, hearing laughter from behind closed doors, being told she was cursed. But under that pain was something bright. Hope. She never gave up. The water pulsed with light. Suddenly, both of them collapsed. The crowd screamed. Servants rushed forward, but then the mist exploded upward, forming a shape above them. Two lights, one human, one Varelian, spinning together in harmony. The bond was complete. When Jace opened his eyes, he saw her in his mind, Sira, standing on a cliff in a dream, smiling. "I can feel you now," she whispered, not with her mouth, but through the connection. "I'm not alone anymore." Back in the real world, the nobles stood in silence. No one had seen a bond this strong in generations. Even the priests looked afraid, because something ancient had awakened. This wasn't just any bond. This was destiny. Lord Yevon, her uncle, stepped forward, eyes full of fire. "This is madness," he said. "The human is not one of us. It doesn't belong in the bloodline." But Keeper Moral, still shocked, answered slowly, "The law is clear. The bond has chosen. And only the bond can be broken by death." Jace helped Sira stand. Her legs still trembled, but her voice was stronger than ever. "I don't need perfect eyes to see what matters," she said. "He chose me when none of you would, and I chose him." Outside the chamber, the news began to spread. Across cities and space stations, people whispered, "The blind princess has bonded with a human." Some laughed, some were afraid, but a few were filled with hope. And somewhere far away, a dark figure heard the news and smiled, because he had waited a long time for this moment, and now it was time to strike. The palace lights were bright again, but a strange silence had fallen. After the bond, Princess Sira and Jace became the center of every whisper. Some called it a miracle. Others said it was a mistake. Many just waited, unsure what would happen next. But deep below the palace, in the old tunnels forgotten by time, something stirred. A figure moved in the shadows. His name was Corin Vaywants, a royal general, now a ghost in the Empire. He had watched the ceremony from a hidden screen, rage burning in his chest. "That human," he growled. "He broke our bloodline." Corin had waited years for this chance. He had planned to take the throne after the king's death. But now the blind princess, weak, useless, had bonded. Worse, she had bonded with an outsider. Everything was falling apart. He walked past a group of hidden warriors dressed in dark armor. They bowed. Their eyes were cold. Their blades were ready. "Send the signal," Corrin said. "We strike soon." But not yet. Back in the palace, Jace stood by the window of his new quarters. The view showed floating towers, glowing trees, and silver ships in the sky. But his eyes were focused inward. He could feel her, not just her location, but her mood, her fear, her hope, her quiet strength. Sira was in the royal healing chamber, recovering from the bonding ritual. The energy had drained her. Even now, she slept with a soft glow around her body, a light that pulsed with every heartbeat. Jace had never believed in magic. This was something else. It was real, and it was dangerous. A soft knock came at the door. It was an old Varelian servantise. Wide, hands shaking. "Sir Human," he whispered, "I shouldn't be here. But I must warn you. The nobles, they are planning something. They won't accept your bond. You are in danger." Jace stepped forward. "Who?" The servant shook his head. "They move in silence. They hide their faces. But I heard the name. Corrin." Before Jace could ask more, the man slipped away into the hall, vanishing like a ghost. Jace turned, feeling a strange pulse in his mind. Sir's energy shifted. He ran to her chamber. Inside, everything looked peaceful. But Sira's face was pale. Her hands trembled. Something was wrong. "Sira," he whispered. Her lips barely moved. "Poison." Jace's heart jumped. He hit the emergency panel. Medic bot arrived in seconds and scanned her. The results flashed red. A rare neurotoxin slipped into her tea. She would have died in an hour. Jace clenched his fists. Someone had tried to kill her inside the palace. Right under their noses, he turned to the guards outside the room. "No one enters without my order. Double security." The captain nodded but said nothing. Jace stared at him. Something was off. The captain's hand was twitching near his weapon. Too late. The man lunged. Jace dodged just in time. The blade missed by inches. The guard slashed again. But Jace grabbed a nearby pole and slammed it into his chest. The guard dropped, unconscious. But alive, other guards rushed in. Chaos erupted. But now the truth was clear. The enemy was already inside. That night, Jace sat by Sira's bed, one hand on hers. She was stable, but still asleep. He looked at her face, so calm, so still, and he made a silent promise. "I don't care who tries to stop me. You trusted me, and I won't let anyone hurt you again." What he didn't know was that somewhere far from the palace, secret ship lifted off from a dark moon. Inside was a man in black robes, Corrin Vey. He had watched the failed poison attempt, and he smiled. "Let the human think he's strong. Let him feel safe. The real strike hasn't begun yet." Beside him, a creature growled, a bioengineered monster, 10 feet tall, armored like a tank. Soon, Corrin said, the Empire will remember what real power looks like. And this time, not even a soul bond would save the princess. Asterisk, the palace library was older than the Empire itself. Its walls were made of living crystal that whispered secrets if you stood close enough. Most nobles ignored this place. Knowledge, to them, was less powerful than politics. But for Jace, it was the only place left with answers. Sira was recovering, but her bond still sent him flashes, dark memories, confusion, pain. Something inside her was buried, something she didn't understand. And someone didn't want her to find it. Jace moved between ancient shelves, guided by a small drone librarian. He scanned each file with care, searching records about soul bonding, royal bloodlines, most of all the prophecy he had overheard whispers about. Then he found it. A sealed scroll. It opened for him, glowing at his touch. It read, "When the stars are born and darkness falls on the bloodline, one without, sight shall awaken the heart core. Her bond shall not be of blood, but of soul, and through pain." Jace sat down slowly. Star eyes. That's what the old language called blindness. The prophecy wasn't just about some future ruler, it was about Sira. She wasn't cursed, she was chosen. Back in her chamber, Sira woke with a gasp. The pain had faded, but a strange feeling remained. Her fingers tingled, ears picked up every vibration, and in her chest, the bond with Jace was glowing brighter. "Are you there?" she whispered. Jace's voice came into her mind gently. "I'm here. I found something." He returned an hour later, breathless, holding the scroll as he read it aloud. Sira sat in silence, hands folded tightly. "No one ever told me," she said when he finished. "They always said I was a mistake. That's what they wanted." "You too believe," Jace said. "Because they were afraid. Afraid of me?" He nodded. "Not of what you are now, but of what you could become." Later that evening, the high priest, Keeper Moral, was summoned to Sira's side. She asked him directly, "Did my father know about the prophecy?" The priest looked down. "Yes," he whispered. "He knew, he believed in it, but he was afraid. He thought keeping you hidden would protect you." "From what?" she asked. "From the hardcore." Sira frowned. "What is that?" Moral glanced around, then leaned in close. "The hardcore is the true source of power for our empire. Buried deep beneath the palace, only a true heir can access it. But it awakens only when the heir faces death or finds a true bond." Sira's hands trembled. "And now, the priest said you have both." That night, Sira walked through the silent halls, guided by memory and her bond with Jace. He joined her near the base of the old palace tower, where the floor turned into crystal. Together, they stepped into the secret chamber Moral had unlocked for them. The hardcore chamber. The air was warm. The walls pulsed like a living creature. At the center was a glowing orb floating, humming softly. As Sira stepped closer, it changed color. The orb lit up with a bright, golden light. It responded to her. No one had touched it in over 1,000 years. And then, a voice spoke, not with sound, but through the bond. "Welcome, star-eyed one. The path is now open." Outside, storm clouds began to gather, not of weather, but of war. Corrinve's ships had left the shadow moons. His monster troops were already hiding inside Varelian cities and deep within the palace walls. One of his spies smiled. Everything was going according to plan, but back in the chamber, Sira placed her hands on the hardcore. A rush of light passed through her body. Memories flooded her mind, not her own, but ancient ones. She saw queens who ruled galaxies, princes who stopped wars, and one little girl. Born blind, just like her, she gasped. "They were like me." Jace held her arm gently. "You were never alone, Sira. You were always meant to lead." Her voice was calm now, strong. "Then I will. But I will not do it with fear. I will do it with him." The hardcore pulsed again, brighter this time. Sira had awakened it, and across the empire, something had changed. The forgotten princess was forgotten no more. The hardcore had awakened, but power came with a cost. To be fully accepted by the empire, not just by law, by tradition, Jace had to pass the final rite. The trial of blood and flame, an ancient test, dangerous, deadly, created long ago. To prove the soul bond was true, that the protector was worthy of standing beside a ruler. No human had ever faced it. No alien had ever survived it without training. But Jace didn't hesitate. "If it means she's safe," he said, "I'll walk through fire." The next morning, the arena opened. It hadn't been used in over 300 years. Stone walls rose into the sky. Lava pits bubbled in the distance. The trial was divided into 3 stages: pain, fear, and truth. Sira stood in the viewing tower, unable to see the arena, but feeling every heartbeat through the bond. Her hands were clenched tight. She had begged him not to do it, but he had smiled and said, "This time, I get to protect you." Stage 1, Pain. Jace stepped into a corridor filled with fire vents. Each step triggered a burst of searing heat. His armor melted at the edges. His skin burned, but he kept walking. His body screamed, but in his mind he heard Sira's voice. "You are not alone." He gritted his teeth and pushed forward. The gate opened. Stage 1, complete stage 2. Fear the next chamber was dark, silent. A strange mist curled around him suddenly. Illusions appeared. Jace saw Earth burning. He saw soldiers screaming for help. He saw himself failing to save them. Then saw Sira lying lifeless, her bond fading. "No," he whispered. "It's not real." The trial wanted to break him. But it didn't know him. He had lived through real war, real loss, and real love. He shut his eyes and roared, "I do not fear the past. Protect the future." The illusion shattered. Stage 2. Complete stage 3. Truth. This chamber held no fire. No illusions, just a mirror. Jace stepped forward and saw himself, but not as he appeared now. He saw a broken man, limping, tired, unsure. The mirror whispered, "You are nothing, a lost soldier, a man without a world." Stared at his reflection. Then he smiled. "That's who I was." He took a step forward. "But now I am her protector." Another step, and I will never be nothing again. The mirror cracked, then shattered completely. Stage 3. Complete. The arena roared with light. High Priest Moral stepped forward, voice shaking. "The trial is over. The bond is true. The human is worthy." The crowd, nobles, soldiers, servants, fell silent. Then slowly, applause began, not forced, not out of fear, but respect. Even the strongest warriors bowed their heads. Jace collapsed to one knee, covered in ash. His armor cracked, but he was smiling. Sira ran to him, her hands shaking. "Jace," she whispered. "Why did you do this? You could have died." He looked up at her. "Because for the first time, I finally have something worth dying for." She knelt beside him, placing her hand on his, and in that moment their bond burned brighter than ever, but far away. In the cold blackness of space, a ship weighted .KORRANV watched the trial from a hidden feed. "So the human survives," he muttered. Behind him, bioengineered warriors tall, armored, and silent stood ready. Corone placed a helmet on his head. "Let them celebrate. Let them believe they've won." He turned to his soldiers. "Because tomorrow, we burn their palace to the ground." Asterisk. The palace was calm. To calm, after the trial of blood and flame, hope had returned. For the first time in years, people spoke the princess's name with pride. Some even smiled when Jace walked by. Children waved. Guards stood taller. But peace was a lie. Corinve was already inside. That morning, the sun rose above Verelian towers, casting golden light across the crystal roofs. In the royal court, Sira prepared to speak to her people for the first time, dressed in black royal robes. She stood tall, blind eyes glowing faintly from the bond's energy. Beside her, Jace stood in new armor, marked with the crest of the protector. The crowd waited below. Thousands of citizens. Warriors, nobles, foreign ambassadors. Sira placed her hand on the microphone crystal. "I was born unseen," she said, voice steady. "Hidden. Forgotten. But I see clearer than most." She paused, and through their bond, Jace felt her heartbeat rise. "I did not choose my pain," she continued, "but I chose to rise above it. And I chose him." She turned slightly toward Jace. A human, a protector, a soul willing to stand in fire for someone not of his world. The crowd was silent, breathless. Then someone clapped, then another, then thousands. The air trembled with cheers. But just as Sira smiled, a blast shook the tower. Smoke screams. A second explosion, then a third. Jace rushed forward, pulling Sira close. Guards surrounded them in the sky. Ships appeared dark, sharp, and silent. Not Verelian. They were Corrin's fleet. Dozens of drop pods crashed into palace walls. From inside came beasts, huge, armored, with red glowing eyes. Bio-warriors, made for war, made to kill. Chaos broke loose. In the palace halls, alarms rang. Corrin's voice came through every speaker, calm and cold. "To the Verelian people, your rule has ended. Your bond is broken. Your empire now belongs to strength." Jace pushed through the crowd, shielding Sira with his body.
But
They moved fast, down secret halls, through the wall doors only royals could use, but it wasn't enough. A group of rebel guards blocked their path. Varelians, loyal to Corin. Jace drew his blade. They charged. The fight was brutal. Jace moved like fire cutting, dodging, slamming enemies against the walls. One guard raised a blaster to ward. Sira. Too fast. Jace jumped between them, took the shot to the shoulder. He dropped, blood ran down his arm. Sira screamed. Guards rushed in and dragged her away before she could reach him. When Jace opened his eyes, he was in a dark cell. His shoulder burned. The room smelled like metal and oil. No light, no sound. He tried to move. His leg was chained, his weapon gone. Then a voice came from the shadows. Well done, human. Corin stepped forward, hands behind his back. You survived the trial. You impressed the crowd. And now you will die alone. Jace glared at him. You're too late. The people believe in her. Corin smirked. Belief is weak. Fire is stronger. He turned to leave. Oh, and your princess, he added. She'll be joining me soon. Not as a queen, but as my prize. Back in the palace, Sira was held in a power cage. She couldn't move. Couldn't reach Jace, but the bond still pulsed. She felt his pain, his rage, his refusal to give up. And then something changed inside her. The heart core, deep below the palace, began to hum. She felt it in her bones. She closed her eyes. Focus. The power answered with a scream. She shattered the cage with a burst of energy that came from her chest. Not her hands. She fell to her knees. Guards outside rushed in, but this time she wasn't helpless. She stood, and her voice filled the room. I am Sira Varelian, daughter of the stars, bonded to a warrior of earth, and I will burn your lies to the ground. Outside, rebel forces closed in, but the real fight was just beginning. The palace was burning. Fires climbed the towers. Rebel ships circled overhead. Corin Vay's voice echoed through the city like a storm, but in the center of the chaos, she stood. Princess Isra, no guards, no weapons, just a blind girl with trembling legs and a bond glowing like fire in her heart. She walked alone through the shattered halls. Her path guided by memory and the pulse of the heart core inside her. With each step, she felt more than stone. She felt pain, loss, fear, but also something else. Hope. From the people hiding in ruined corridors, from servants who once ignored her, now whispering her name, and most of all from him. Jay sat, locked in the cell below. Jay sat slumped against the wall, blood on his face, breathing hard. But suddenly, warmth. He felt it in his chest, her energy, her voice. Don't move. I'm coming. The lock on his cell sparked, then shattered. The door opened. Sira stood there, her hand glowing with light. Jace blinked. You broke the lock. She smiled faintly. Oh, we did. They didn't wait. Together they ran through fire. Through shattered halls, side by side, human and alien. Warrior and princess, their bond grew brighter with each heartbeat, and the heart core, buried deep beneath the palace, awakened Quar, stood in the throne room. Watching the sky burn, he turned as the doors slammed open. Sira entered first. Jace followed, bruised but ready. Corin laughed. You think you can stop me? You're just a child with broken legs. And he's astray from a dying world. Sira took a breath. And then the throne room changed. The walls began to glow. Crystals pulsed. The heart core rose from the floor like a sun rising from the earth. You're wrong, she said softly. I'm not broken. I'm awake. Light burst from her hands and struck the floor. A wave of energy swept through the room. Corin's weapon shattered. His guards collapsed, screaming. Only he remained standing, barely. He rushed at her. Jack moved to protect her, but she raised a hand. Let me finish this. Corin lunged, but before he could strike, the heart core responded. A beam of light hit his chest. He dropped to his knees. The light showed his true self, not a warrior, but a scared, bitter man who wanted control because he never knew love. Sira looked at him, not with hate, but sadness. "You had power," she said, "but you had no heart." The heart core sent one final pulse, and Corrin vanished into light, gone. Silence fell. Then the skies cleared. The rebel ships stopped firing. The bio-soldiers dropped their weapons and fled. The war was over. Hours later, Sira stood on the palace steps. Thousands gathered below. Humans and Varelians, young and old, warriors and workers. They watched as she stepped forward. "I once thought I was born with nothing," she said. "No eyes, too. See? No legs to run. No strength to lead." She paused. Jace stood behind her, smiling. "But I was wrong. I was given a heart, a bond, and a voice. And today, I use that voice to say this." She raised her hand. "We rise together, no matter our world, no matter our past." The crowd exploded in cheers, and the galaxy changed forever. That night, in the quiet of their shared chamber, Jace looked at her. "Do you ever wonder why I stayed?" Sira turned toward him. "Why?" He took her hand. "Because when everyone looked away, you looked inside me, and you saw more than I ever did." She smiled. "I was blind. But I saw you. From the start,